This week I'm down on the farm, discovering how infected milk and meat could end up on your table.
As far as we're aware, this animal shouldn't be on this farm, so we need to know what's happened.
And we call in at this roadside food stop, although you may want to keep on driving.
Those are mouse droppings again.
I'm in the lab looking at our bacteria of the week. In the right conditions, it can spread like wildfire. And I'll discover how to avoid food poisoning at your party with my special guest. He's a food inspector.
Great!
The average British family spends over £50 a week on food, the majority of it spent in supermarkets. But do you really know where your food comes from and whether it's safe to eat?
Food fraud is big business, and whether it's buying eggs that aren't quite as organic as you thought, or prime Scottish beef which is just old mince, it usually involves not getting what you paid for.
But here's the thing, a food fraud which could result in you becoming ill. It starts on the farm and could end up with you or your kids eating diseased meat or drinking infected milk. It's called cow clocking, and I'm about to meet part of the team trying to stop it.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Hiya, pleased to meet you.
So Steph, cow clocking. I mean, I'm interested already. The name's great.
And where we're going today, we've got reason to believe there's problems with cattle identification on the farm. And cow clocking is basically we think the identity of an animal has been switched.
So why should I care if cows are being confused?
Well, ultimately, that animal is a live animal. At some point is likely to end up on our dinner plates.
Cool, we better go.
Tuberculosis is on the rise in the UK. Last year, 25,000 cattle had to be destroyed because of the disease. And that's where cow clocking comes in. If the diseased cow is valuable, the farmer sends a less valuable one to slaughter, leaving the infected animal in the field and headed for your dinner table.
Sadly, it's one or two individuals, but those people are effectively compromising the food chain in relation to tuberculosis, and that stems from either a very good producer giving a lot of milk, or the animal, if it's a beef animal, is worth a lot of money.
This is a surprise visit to a Staffordshire farm. The inspectors believe there are more cattle on this farm than have been declared. It could be an innocent mistake, or something more serious.
These are not... What are you mixing up there? What's going on?
This is disinfectant basically.
Oh, OK.
Which is suitable for TB.
Right.
With tens of thousands of cows testing positive for tuberculosis each year, stopping infected milk and meat ending up in your shopping basket is a massive task. To help the animal health team, every cow on every farm has an ear tag stamped with a unique identification number.
165363.
That's correct.
The team can then check these numbers against a national database.
101002.
Yep.
And the farmer, Michael Fenton, explains to me why they're all worth recording.
Each one of those animals in there today has a real value for you.
Yep.
I mean, how much on average are we talking?
Well, a freshly calved cow's making £1,500 to £2,000 nowadays because there's a shortage of them all over the country.
The guy's coming on totally out of the blue. Is that all right for you?
I don't mind them coming. They're always here to help us, like, when we've had trouble in the past.
200,474, 200,131.
The farmer's happy to cooperate with the officers. But midway through their checking operation, something doesn't add up.
Right, she's not on there. Right.
Second mile there.
What's just gone through is a green cross cow. And a green cross cow, they put a green cross on it because they can't quite work out why it's not on the list. A bit of a discrepancy there.
As far as we're aware, this animal shouldn't be on this farm, so we need to know what's happened and why it hasn't been reported to being on this farm, and whether that is actually that animal that it says it is, basically.
It's 100,862.
Checking over 100 cows is painstaking work, but it's kept us largely free from tuberculosis, a potentially lethal disease which attacks the lungs.
Another mystery cow.
Come on, babes.
And there are also cows that should be on the farm, but aren't.
What I don't understand right here is that there are loads of gaps.
This has to be done so that we can find out where these animals are, so that if they're dead, if they've moved off the farm, we can update the records, make sure that we've got traceability.
In all, Stephanie and her team have uncovered 28 suspicious cattle. If they find even one cow's being clocked, the farmer could face a criminal prosecution.
So can you understand why some farmers would be tempted to switch them?
It seems to be always the good ones that end up getting it and going. That seems to be the trouble.
You end up getting compensated
Yeah,
for
you
that.
get compensated, yeah, but it's not as much as it costs to buy a new one.
We'll find out later if the farmer's putting his profits ahead of our health.
Now, we all like a celebration, a gathering of friends for a good old-fashioned knees up. But did you know that nearly 90% of all domestic food poisoning cases happen at parties? Mass catering or reheating of pre-prepared food can be really dangerous, and if it's not done properly, you can wake up the next morning with more than just a hangover. Here in High Wycombe, Justine Jackson is cooking for her Hollywood party, and I'm about to gatecrash.
I promise you, this is how I am.
So, how do you have a knees up without poisoning your friends? To explain all, I brought along a very special guest. Food Inspector Ben Milligan and I are not here to party. We've got work to do. Hello, are you Justine?
I am, yes.
Hi Justine, I'm Chris.
Hi, Chris.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Thank you, yes.
This is Ben.
Hi, nice to meet you. Hi.
Oh, I've got a little bit of surprise for you. He's a food inspector.
Great!
And we're going to make sure that you're not going to poison any of your guests.
Oh, that's fabulous, I won't.
I like your confidence, Justine. I wonder how long it'll last. So let's get this right. You're cooking for 37.
Yeah.
Have you ever cooked for this sort of numbers before?
No. I've cheated before.
You've
just got it all in.
Alarm bells start ringing there?
Some little ones in the background.
The kitchen is spick and span, but 40% of party poisoning is down to bad food storage. And now Ben is making a beeline for the fridge. This is my favourite part, the fridge inspection. I love to look at your face going, ooh! What do we reckon?
Well, it's pretty organised. There's no raw meats at the top dripping on everything, so I'm quite happy with that. It says it's at 4 degrees. That'll be the air temperature. That's not necessarily the product temperature, so the product might be a different temperature. And especially when you've got such a full fridge.
So take a tip from Justine and keep raw meat at the bottom of your fridge to avoid cross-contamination. And make sure that everything is kept between 0 and 5 degrees. And if your fridge is full of party food, beware.
As you can see at the top here, you've got a fan in there at the back, so you need a good circulation of the air. So if that's in front of that, like it was, there is a potential that this stuff might not be at the 4 degrees that it says it is. So if we just check it quickly.
And that's the old chicken.
That's the chicken.
Yeah.
It's at 8 degrees. It's warmer than what it says there.
If Justine's chicken had stayed at this temperature for more than 4 hours, it could have contained some dangerous levels of food poisoning bacteria. And if toxins are present, that's bacteria feces to you and me, even reheating the food won't destroy them. And if the host doesn't poison you, one of the other guests might. A third of men admit to not washing their hands after going to the toilet. A grim statistic, and could mean that a party is one big germ exchange. Cue Ben and tonight's guinea pig, Joe. You got it, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz.
OK then, Joe. What I've got here is a special powder, and I'm going to put it on your hands, and you'll just act as you normally will around about the kitchen. We'll come back to you in about 15 minutes.
OK, start the clock. Imagine the powder is bacteria left on your hands after a trip to the toilet. Let's see how those germs spread. OK, so she spent some time in the kitchen doing a bit of cooking. Of course, and a bit of drinking. And a lot of chatting. Let's see where those hands have been. 3, 2, 1, lights off.
If you're not washing your hands properly, this will show us how you can transfer things if you don't wash.
Okay.
The powder glows under ultraviolet light, so where has the bacteria spread first?
I noticed you scratching the side of your hand. And obviously you've come over here to wash your hands, you then turn the tap back off. So what you should really do is give the taps a little wash.
So Joe's sharing it with whoever wants the next drink.
So we've got fingerprints.
The next person that tries to pour a glass is going to pick up a bottle that's got bacteria on. And 15 minutes later, the bacteria is in your mouth.
This is why I tell people don't bite your nails.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have your fingers in your mouth.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, if you're cooking for very large numbers, there are a few of Ben's rules that are worth following. Keep food in the fridge as long as possible before serving. Don't overfill your fridge and keep the fan uncovered. And finally, store leftover food in clean covered containers in the fridge and eat within 48 hours.
The Roadside Cafe, found in laybys up and down the country, is a great British favourite, both with hungry truckers and desperate television presenters.
Having my break, my legal requirement, having some food and then back to work.
Today we're near Wolverhampton, if you couldn't tell. This one's about to be inspected by one of South Staffordshire's most stringent inspectors, Mike Sullivan.
We're on our way to the bread bin where earlier this year we found extensive mouse droppings on the vehicle. It was evident immediately that the proprietor was still serving customers as normal.
This van's just off the M6, and Michael Bromley's owned it for 5 years.
Hi, Mr. Bromley, you're right. Just due for your food inspection.
Since his recent mouse problem, the inspectors have become another group of unwanted regulars.
They come round probably twice a year and I feel very intimidated with them. Very intimidated. Yeah. They've never got a good word for you. It don't matter how much you try, they have not got a good word for you.
OK, so it's not much more than a hut on wheels, but roadside cafes must meet the same hygiene standards as the most swanky restaurant and expect the same scrutiny from the investigators. That means getting stuck in.
Looking for any signs of pests. See that? Those are mouse droppings again, and you can see the yellow pages that's been stored in here. That's been chewed, so there's evidence of mice in the premises. You wouldn't want to be eating a sandwich if you'd seen that.
No. There's confusion over how old the droppings are. Mike suspects they may be new. Mr. Bromley says they're old ones from the previous inspection. I'm not sure which is worse.
Can you leave that there for me, please, Mr. Bromley, for the time?
That was from the restaurant, it's never moved.
Right.
The owner is happy with standards here, and so it seems are his customers.
I come to this estate about 3 times a week and I normally pop in here when I'm in. If it's open,
Just bear with me a minute.
service is spot on and the food is as good, if not better than anywhere.
I'm just at the bread bin.
Up till now, this has just been a spot check, but Mike now escalates it to a full-scale inspection and calls in his boss for help. Unleash Jasmine. She's familiar with the hygiene issues at the bread bin, but fair to say she has dealt with bigger problems elsewhere.
I had a case of a dead mouse in a milk bottle. And it was one of these sterilised milk bottles, so once it died, the cleaning process didn't pick it up and the controls that the dairy had didn't pick it up. The mouse basically stayed in the bottle with the milk and the top sealed on top.
Seems to be a drop in there.
Back at the van, Mike's forensic inspection is in full swing.
OK.
It's just really good. they just keep on your back all the time. You know, you can't get on with what you're doing. I mean, you look yourself. I mean, you'd have a sandwich off here. I guarantee you would. If you come here, you would have a sandwich off here, and you'd enjoy it. All I do.
Hello, Mr. Bromley. You okay? It's just
Not really. Not really.
And this is where the box was. I just pulled it out to have a look.
Droppings in there.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yellow pages, is all chewed.
Further inspection shows that Mr. Bromley doesn't have a new infestation, but he does need to clear the old droppings. Then they find another pressing problem. He's got no hot water as his urn has broken down.
You should have hot running water.
Excuse me, has anybody got any money to replace this? Because I haven't.
We'll have to serve a notice for you to provide hot water.
Even though I use the kettle?
You need hot running water.
You need a regular supply to the sink. If you can't get it repaired, you need to get it replaced.
So I can actually be closed for not having running hot water?
If it's not replaced, then we'll be looking at serving a notice.
Yeah.
So you do need to do that.
At the moment, it's just a verbal warning, but if Mr. Bromley's got no hot water when the inspectors return in a week, he could face closure. Every business selling food by law needs to be registered and receive regular visits from inspectors. And if you own one in Kettering in Northamptonshire, you have to expect a knock on the door from Eleni Vassilopoulou.
A cremated chicken wing. I think cleaning as they go along is the answer to this. Standards are not good.
Eleni's a former chef, so she comes down pretty hard on anyone not playing by the rules. But after 9 years in the job, she's toned down her approach a bit.
I do tend to take quite a few breaths before going to premises nowadays and not pounce on people. I've never been shy to say, you're not doing a very good job, because at the end of the day, I'm there to protect public health, and that's what drives me to be a certain way.
There are huge pressures in opening a business: staffing, suppliers, getting cash into the till. Food hygiene training may not be top priority.
I'm from Environmental Health. I'm here to carry out a routine food hygiene inspection. Yeah.
Just taken over 5 months ago, so no one's been round.
We don't actually know that you've taken over,
Right.
so you haven't let us know.
Operating a food business without registering with the local council is an offence. Obviously a law they didn't know about, and there are a few other worries.
Is this your first time working in catering? It is. Yourself? Okay. And what were you doing before, if you don't mind me asking? You were a driver.
Yeah.
Who is in charge of the shop?
Well, it's me and Marina joint, really.
Right, okay.
Time for a crash course in food hygiene. And with Eleni as teacher, there's a lot to learn.
And you make the bread here, do you? Right. Not the cleanest of trays. This one's broken, so a few bits of plastic can fall back inside the bread. Would you say this is acceptable, the fact that you have mould and fridge seals? Yeah, you could get underneath there. During a time when you'll be doing heavy-duty cleaning, first impressions is they don't really know what they're doing. Can I ask, Marina, do you have a chopping board?
I do, yeah.
I'm quite worried that you'll cut your hands the way you're doing it now. She was handling food, she has false nails on. At any time, false nail can fall inside food and cause a foreign body contamination. Your thing's not working. Right. So once you've washed your hands, you have to touch the lid. This is an old piece of equipment, and there's bits inside the water as well. I really want you to throw it away, really. That's really made me feel very uncomfortable.
And what's making her more uncomfortable is that there's a problem with the labels in the shop too.
No, it's all Italian. There's no English on it.
By law, every product sold in the UK must have labelling in English.
Today, I'm taking a more of a stricter approach because you have traded for 4 months and we didn't know about it.
Yes, he may be new to catering, but Eleni's leaving him in no doubt about what he needs to do.
I think it's going to take time. There's just so much things we've had to do since we took over, and just little bits and bobs that we have to get on top of. Obviously, we need to step up a bit more to get it better.
Selling food to the public is a serious business. You can't compromise. Whatever you touch and handle will go inside somebody's stomach. And if that person is your mum and they get food poisoning and they die, then it's my fault that I didn't pick this up during my inspection.
Now, for our bacteria of the week, and it can be a bit grim, especially if you're not that clean and you handle food. This is Staphylococcus aureus. Great name, not a great thing to have. Let's have a look at it close up under the microscope. So where does it come from? Well, 50% of all people carry Staphylococcus aureus, and it spreads by people having very bad personal hygiene. You know, picking your nose, picking spots, scratching your ears, that sort of thing. And then you shake hands, and in the right conditions, it can spread like wildfire. And if it gets into your food, then it can produce a highly dangerous toxin. OK, the symptoms. Now, once the bacteria has entered the body, the illness can be quite bad. Abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea and a fever. But the good news is it doesn't normally last more than a day. So, how can we avoid Staphylococcus aureus? Well, it doesn't like the cold. So, when you've got food and you're storing it, try and put it in the fridge. But above all, hygiene. Staphylococcus aureus lives on our skin, so keeping clean is important. Cuts and grazes are especially vulnerable, so make sure any injuries are clean and covered. Be careful with food that is handled a lot, like prawns, cream cakes and cooked meats. Use utensils instead.
It's been a week since Food Inspector Jasmine Thomas visited the Roadside cafe near Wolverhampton, which had mouse droppings and no hot water. The mouse droppings have been removed. What about the water?
OK, Mr Bromley. Reason for coming back today was really to see how you're getting on with the hot water. The urn wasn't working, was it?
I'm still waiting for one to come in. So
Okay.
I've got that on order. But I was telling the gasman about it. She says, hang on a minute, the majority of catering vans don't even have them that use a kettle.
Forget about what the gas man has said.
Yeah.
He's not responsible for advising you on the legal requirements.
So, tips on food hygiene law from the gas man. No wonder Jasmine suspects he isn't taking her advice seriously enough.
We may have to serve a notice for you to get the hot water installed.
Never been catering, so hard work.
You're getting there, so that's good.
Anything to do with health and environment is an headache.
The mouse problem may have gone, but if the hot water's not replaced in 72 hours, Jasmine will start to close him down.
I am going to push him to resolve this sooner rather than later. Because by the end of the week, I'll need to know whether I need to serve a notice or not, or whether he's just stringing me along.
Back at the Staffordshire livestock farm, Stephanie Young and her colleagues are continuing their investigations. Earlier, they discovered that 28 of the cows here don't match those on the official records.
So what was the number, sorry?
305947. Another mystery cow.
The team needs to know whether or not any of the animals on the farm is infected with tuberculosis. There's one medical test that will prove it definitively.
Sixes.
Thank you.
Roger, who's the animal health officer, he will find out in 72 hours whether it's come up in a red bump. If it is, then it's got TB and needs to be sent for slaughter.
After a long and agonising wait, the tests proved negative. None of the animals had TB.
200,391, 200.
What about the mystery cows in the barn? In the end, it emerged that they were all legitimate. The farmer had simply fallen behind with his registration paperwork.
You've got to do it so they know where everything is, so you can trace things like. If it's just time you finished at night, you don't feel like looking at the paperwork.
For Stephanie Young, it's a good outcome. But it's only because of inspectors like her that we can be confident about what we're eating.
Every time anyone has a glass of milk, or a steak, they need to know that all this work's been done. They don't even have to think about it.
That's it. You want to know that the food on your plate is going to be safe, whether it be for yourself, whether it be for your family. And ultimately, this is the critical stage for that. We're right at the very beginning of the food chain, so that's why it's important that we identify a problem, we come in and we get it sorted.
It may seem extreme for the government to want to know where every cow is all the time, to the point where they issue a passport, but then 25,000 cows were infected with TB last year, and so they have to be monitored incredibly closely to keep the public safe. In Kettering, the Italian bakery complied with the law and registered with the local council. It also put all of Eleni's hygiene and labelling advice into practice.
A bit stressed out at the beginning, but it's good to know what we need to do now.
In South Staffordshire, Roadside cafe owner Michael Bromley did finally heed the officer's warning. He cleaned up his premises and fixed the urn.
OK, that's great, that's sorted then.
But he was still in legal hot water. In January this year, Mr Bromley pleaded guilty to food hygiene offences and was ordered to pay £3,300. And there's a lesson for business owners. You might not like what the food inspectors have to say, but you still have to listen.
And that's because they have the law behind them and they're not afraid to use it.
Just as well. Or even more of us could end up getting sick. Till next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.